Did you know there are everyday objects in your house right now that, if you lived a few centuries ago, could have gotten you executed or at least severely side-eyed? I'm not talking about medieval torture devices. I mean things so normal today that they're sitting in your backpack or kitchen drawer. In this video, I'll tell you about 10 totally ordinary objects that, once upon a time, were treated like loaded weapons, witchcraft tools, or public menaces. And yes, after this, you'll never look at your morning spoon the same way again. Picture this. It's the 1700s. You're hungry, and you spot a shiny red tomato. Do you bite it? Absolutely not. Because back then, Europeans thought tomatoes were toxic death bombs. The logic: wealthy folks ate tomatoes off pewter plates. The acid from the tomato leached lead from the plate, and voila, people dropped dead. Instead of blaming their dinnerware, everyone blamed the fruit. The tomato got labeled the poison apple. And honestly, Snow White vibes make sense now. It took decades before anyone trusted them enough to put tomatoes on pizza. Imagine the world without pizza. Just because people couldn't tell lead poisoning from salad. That's not just tragic, it's culinary blasphemy. Carrying an umbrella today just makes you look responsible. But in 18th century England, walking around with one was practically social suicide. Why? Because umbrellas were associated with women and effeminate men. A man strutting around London with a parasol was mocked, jeered at, and sometimes even assaulted. People thought it was ridiculous to shield yourself from rain when real men were supposed to endure it. You weren't keeping dry, you were allegedly insulting masculinity itself. Ironically, when umbrellas finally became fashionable, they were rebranded as gentlemen's umbrellas. Which just proves one thing: society has always been bad at deciding what's manly. Honestly, nothing screams macho like catching pneumonia out of pride. Imagine walking into a cafe and being accused of witchcraft just for sipping a latte. In the 1500s, coffee was literally called the bitter invention of Satan. Priests warned it would corrupt your soul, and rulers tried to ban it outright. The problem wasn't caffeine jitters, it was conversation. Coffee houses became hubs where people gathered, gossiped, and plotted revolutions. Leaders feared the drink because it fueled ideas, and ideas are way scarier than any dark roast. Eventually, Pope Clement VIII tasted it and declared it too delicious to let the infidels have all to themselves. Thanks, Your Holiness, for saving cappuccinos. Without him, Starbucks might still be a crime scene. Yes, books, those innocent rectangles on your shelf, were once considered lethal. In the Middle Ages, reading certain texts was basically a one-way ticket to being tried for heresy. Knowledge wasn't just power, it was dangerous. Authorities feared books because they spread ideas that challenged church or state. People literally believed some books could summon demons or drive you insane if you read them. Fast forward to today, the only danger most books pose is dropping a hardcover on your face while reading in bed. Still, it's wild to think that what we now call light reading used to be treated like radioactive material. Picture dining without forks, just stabbing your roast chicken with a dagger or tearing bread apart with your hands. That was perfectly normal until forks appeared in Europe, and people hated them. Clergy called them instruments of the devil, claiming that God gave humans fingers for eating, so using metal prongs was sinful arrogance. Some nobles even mocked fork users as weak or ridiculous. The irony: the fork eventually became a symbol of refinement and manners. Today, not using one makes you look like the barbarian. Basically, the devil's tool went from heresy to fine dining accessory in a few centuries. Bon appetit. You wake up, glance in the mirror, and congratulations, you just doomed your soul. At least, that's what many people once believed. Mirrors weren't just reflective glass, they were thought to be portals that trapped your spirit or invited demons into your home. In some cultures, mirrors were covered after a death in the family because if the soul saw its reflection, it could get stuck forever. Others thought breaking a mirror cursed you with 7 years of bad luck. Honestly, that one still lingers. Try smashing one in front of your superstitious friend and watch them panic. Science eventually revealed mirrors were just physics and silver backing, but the superstition never really died. Next time you check your hair in the bathroom, just remember, you're grooming yourself in what your ancestors considered a haunted trapdoor. When matches first became mass-produced in the 19th century, they were seen as scandalous, especially if a woman carried them. A lady with her own fire source that was basically sorcery with a side of rebellion. Doctors warned that women striking matches would ignite more than flames, they'd ignite immorality. Some even believed women who used them would become phosphorus girls, tainted by chemicals and prone to wicked behavior. Meanwhile, the actual danger wasn't morality at all, it was industrial workers developing phossy jaw, a gruesome disease from exposure to phosphorus fumes. Society worried about the wrong fire entirely. Turns out the real curse wasn't witches, it was factory safety standards. Imagine introducing someone to ice for the first time. It's water, at heart. Sounds simple, yet in the 1800s, shipping blocks of ice around the world was considered suspicious, even dangerous. In warmer countries, people thought it was witchcraft or poison. Why else would water suddenly turn into a rock? Some refused to touch it, convinced it would harm their health. One Indian newspaper even warned that eating ice could cause madness. Ironically, ice went from cursed novelty to ultimate luxury. Soon, having chilled drinks was a sign of wealth. Today, refusing ice at a restaurant just makes you that weird customer. Basically, frozen water had a PR journey that deserves its own Netflix documentary. Throwing on a pair of shades today makes you look cool, mysterious, maybe even celebrity adjacent. But in the early 20th century, sunglasses carried a shady reputation literally. People thought if you were hiding your eyes, you were hiding something else too. Criminal, immoral, untrustworthy, take your pick. Some even believed tinted lenses could damage your eyesight or rot your brain with unnatural colors. Basically, early sunglasses were the equivalent of walking around with a neon sign saying, "I'm up to no good." Fast forward a century, and now refusing to wear sunglasses just makes you squint awkwardly like a confused mole. Moral of the story: society has always been bad at deciding who looks suspicious. Believe it or not, bicycles were once considered a public health crisis. Doctors in the late 1800s warned about bicycle face, a supposedly permanent look of strain and ugliness caused by riding too much. Women were told cycling would ruin their fertility, twist their spines, and basically doom civilization. In truth, bicycles gave people, especially women, freedom and independence. And nothing freaked out the status quo more than women suddenly being mobile without needing a man or a horse. So, of course, they called it dangerous. Today, cycling is praised for health, fitness, and saving the planet. Back then, it was basically treated like a doomsday device with pedals. If only those doctors could see the Tour de France, they'd probably faint. So there you have it: tomatoes, forks, coffee, ice, and even bicycles, objects we now take for granted, once carried the weight of scandal, danger, or outright doom. The real lesson: safety was never about the objects themselves, but about society's ability to adapt to change. Remember, true security doesn't come from fearing the new. It comes from realizing how ridiculous those fears usually were. If this video made you laugh, cringe, or rethink your kitchen drawer, hit that subscribe button. Because forgetting to subscribe would be the only normal thing history still finds dangerous. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.